Hello, Blazor fans. Welcome back to Blazor State Has Changed. We're going to continue working on our BlazePort application today. We're going to work on some forms. We have machine learning integration in the app already, but we have kind of hard-coded values sending data to that service and coming back with an answer. So we need to get some actual forms up that look decent, to drive us to the next stage where we can think about UX and whatnot. So that's what we're going to work on today. Welcome back to the show. Glad to see a busy chat room or a busy set of viewers anyway on a Monday morning. Feel free to chime in the chat room, ask questions. Make sure, let me know if there's any audio or video glitches, anything like that. And feel free to ask questions about the project and Blazor or anything like that in general. Hello, Super Sniper and OnHip Coder. Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you guys. No news today. We're going to do that on Fridays. So let's actually jump in. Hey, Ancient Coder. Welcome back into the chat room. We're going to jump into the app that we're building, and we're going to start working on some forms in the app. So we'll get right into coding today. I'll zoom in a little bit. Looks like you can't see extremely well on the stream because it's all little text right now. These are all just placeholders that we put in over the course of building out the app, and we're going to turn these into an actual form today. Probably going to add some more drop-down interactivity and stuff like that. So let's jump into Visual Studio here and pull up the app in. I also got some Bootstrap documentation up so we can use a little Bootstrap to get our forms going pretty quickly. Legendary Moo, nice pun, by the way. Love that. Thanks for listening to the MS Dev Show interview. It was a lot of fun. Those guys are excellent over there. I'm super happy to be part of their show. All right. So this is our BlazePort app. If you haven't seen it before, what we're actually working on is something similar to this futuristic travel application that I saw on Behance a while back. And the general idea of what we're going to be looking at building today. And it's not going to look exactly like this. It's going to take a while to get some good styles up. But we want to get a form that we can put together that at least gives us some information like this that we can select from. We have a little bit more data going in than just your pickup location and stuff right now, but this is the general idea. We want a little bit of a dashboard when we come in so we can configure our trip and get a estimated price and whatnot. Ours looks nothing like that. It looks like this. It's a big stark white page with a lot of text just streamed across it. That's because I just put a lot of placeholder information in. This is how I like to build things. I do a lot of prototyping, and that means just hashing things out right in HTML, chucking it up on the page, and then rearranging it, making it look nice, then adding some interactivity and building out some backend services and things. So that's where we're at. So we have all these labels and spans. Those are going to turn into actual forms and controls here. And let's look at Bootstrap real quick, because this is what we're going to use to kind of accelerate the styling of this. We'll use some of these built-in form classes. We've got form and form group. We've got form control and those things. We'll use those to get us moving forward. So we'll take a look here. We have an edit form here, so that should already emit a form, form element. So if we go to our page and take a look, this edit form where we've given it a model, this should actually have a form element spit out from Blazor as part of the component. And you'll see that right here. This comes from that form. Actually, let me zoom in on that again. I know some of these things can come in a little small on the stream, so we'll zoom in. This form here, that's inside of our content is coming from this edit form on line 4 of our index page. And on the last show, we moved all of our code to a code behind. for this index page. So let's get that expanded out on the side here. And we've got our index right here. Index.razor, and underneath of that is index.razor.cs. This is all the logic for that file. So we'll be using these two files mostly today. And we'll probably do some refactoring on the index page. I'll zoom back out. This is the code behind. So we're injecting some services. We have a hard static form in here that's hard-coded in called myForm. And this was just basic template to hold a position for us on the page and give us some drop-down boxes and whatnot. So we're going to refactor that guy out. But first, let's take a look at what data we have going in and put some nice look and feel behind it. So when we go to our page, it doesn't look like this anymore. It actually looks like something nice. So what we need to do is come over. I'm going to do a little copy paste here. This is kind of the format that we're going to follow. And this is right from the Bootstrap docs. We want to have a div with form group. And then we're going to wrap inside of that form group each one of our form controls. It's pretty basic, straightforward stuff we do for like a line of business app. And this is a good starting point. The forms look good this way. If you want something a little more commercial, that's going to look a little more, wide market commercialized app, then you might want to custom style this stuff. And we will probably be doing that much later in the application. But for now, this will get us going. So we may want to select some dates here. I'm just keep this one a little vague for now. We'll put a form control class on. We don't have an input yet. We need to have an input here. Let's just keep this generic for now. Input. Type. Date. So we can pick a date. Actually, let's do date time. So we'll put a date picker in there that will allow someone to pick the time of day. It doesn't go anywhere yet. There's no data bindings or anything, so it's not going to actually do anything. We'll do that when we add an actual form class to this. So we still haven't built that out yet. We'll continue on with the form groups, and we'll need to do this for each and every item in here. But they'll look really nice when we're done. We have a passenger count. Again, it's just a span placeholder, so we need to replace that span with something. Let's see, we need another input, and then we can say type is a number. This one always confuses me, and I've done it many times, so this might be a little tip for us .NET developers out there that don't deal with JavaScript as often. Numbers are the type in JavaScript, so if you accidentally put int in here or integer or anything other than number that represents a number, it's not going to come out right. It's just a pain. And you can also have typos and stuff that make that really annoying. So we've got that, and again, we need to put form control on that one. And this will give it a nice look and feel. One more form group here. This is going to be a service provider, which we don't have data for yet. So what we may end up having here is a choice of your carrier, who's going to take you. If you were in the airline world, it'd be like Delta versus United, or Yellow Cab versus something else if you're taking a taxi. Let's see. Ancient Coder is asking input versus input text. We can use input text as well. That's a built-in. There's some built-in helper inputs that are built into Blazor, and I'm not really familiar with them all that much. It looks like we have some helper methods, or not methods. My brain is not working today. It's early. It's a Monday. Events is what I'm looking for. Events. We have some built-in events here. I'm not sure what the difference between just using standard HTML and input um, input number and input text and all those things brings. But we'll take a look at those in a few minutes. Right now I'm focusing on just getting the styling up and running correctly, and we'll eventually probably replace all of these with Telerik UI components anyway. But we'll take a look at those. Okay, it has validation logic in it. That's what I figured. There's a helper stuff in those for validation, and there's also some change events and stuff that are already wired up in there. Do those have a class input on, or a class property on them as well? Let's take a look. Date, input date. Yeah, we have a class property. We'll try these out. Here we go. Let's do that instead of standard HTML. This way we get the validation out of the box. But we don't have a form yet, actually. Hang on, let's hold off on those. We will go to those in just a minute. We don't have a form yet, so I won't actually be able to complete those out until I create the form. So let's run with the standard HTML for a few minutes, and then we'll come back to that. Let's see, service provider. I'm going to put this one dark for a sec, and I'm going to comment this one out because we don't have really an input for that one yet. We'll leave that one hard-coded. Payment method as well. I'm going to darken that one out, leave that one hard-coded. We'll leave pickup location, and we're going to add some more drop-down boxes here. So let's actually take those out. And let's open up, let's see, pickup location is going to be an input select, and class is equal to form control as well. And let's make sure there's other form controls that are available as well. And I don't remember if there's a special one for select, and I don't see one, but we'll see how this renders out. We may need to change that. So form control, form class, or form control is the class, and then we have our drop down boxes, which we're going to end up with 4 of those eventually. Let's give this a yeah, I don't have a model yet, a model for my form. That's right, Chris. I don't know what I actually misspoke and said, but I don't have a form to bind any values yet, so I wouldn't be able to actually view the input until there's something bound to it. It's going to throw errors and be a real pain in the rear. So let's see how this looks now. Should be a little more, there we go, it's a little more friendly. Let's zoom in a little bit. So it's a little more friendly. Now we have, oh, this email address, I was wondering where it came from for a second. This was my little template that I pasted out of Bootstrap real quick. I have my date, and then my drop downs. So this is looking better. Did I miss a form group? I may have. Let's go back for a sec. And I want to get rid of this first form group. Let's get that guy out of here. Yep, I'm missing a form group here. Let's see if this still works well. Do Control KS to surround. I don't know why they don't have a surround with div. But that does work. It didn't auto change my end tag though. Should have. Thought it should have anyway. So we've got our form group there, and we need one more here at the bottom. Got it on my clipboard now, and there we go. I thought the form group had, oh, those comments aren't working well. Either that or the highlighting's not proper. Let's put some HTML comments in there just to hold those values where we want them. These will end up being form values eventually, but I don't really have an idea yet of what I want those to be. So we'll just temporarily take those out. Actually, let's make this even more simpler. Just say there's going to be a service provider and a payment method value in here at some point in the application. I know those are probably hard to see on the stream. I leave my comments pretty dark because I don't like a lot of comments in my code. I'm just using them as placeholders. And I'm just putting in what those potential form values might look like. And we'll just leave those out until we figure out what to do with them. Control-Shift-W. Surround with div is a different shortcut, really? Let's see, Control-Shift-W. No, not Control-Shift-W on mine. I don't know what that's doing, but it's trying to stop what I'm doing. Control-K, Control-S is surround with, but I don't understand why they don't have a div in here. I know there's, maybe it's form that no, not form. There's something really simple that I used to use a lot, and it would just replace the tags really easy. It's not region or style or table. Huh. HTML maybe? Nope. I thought there was something really simple I was using before that you could just rename to a div. It almost sounds like I'm advocating against commenting code. I kind of am. I pretty much am. Yeah, there's no reason to put a ton of comments in your code. And for the few that you do need, leaving it a dark color like this is good enough. It just serves as kind of a reminder that we don't need a bunch of comments. All right, let's take a look. That should be a better looking version of our form. Give this a rerun. You can see it on edit menus. So while that's running, I'll look up here. So on the edit menu, there is a surround with div. There's a paste special, I know that one. Select all, advanced. Format document. Word wrap. Outlining, nope. IntelliSense, nope. Yeah, I'm not sure where that is. Wonder if it's up here. Let's try this. There's surround with. Whoops. I don't see anything that says surround with a div. Maybe there's a plugin or something that you can get. I don't know why the div's not in there. There is something easy, though, that you can use. And I can't for the life of me remember what it is right this second. That would easily... Yeah, that's it. Just an anchor tag does it really quick. It's a little bit of editing. It's kind of lazy. Oh, Shift-Alt-W. There we go. Shift-Alt-W. Thank you. Shift-Alt-W is the surround with a div. So, Super Sniper reaching into Stack Overflow for a quick win. All right. So we've got our dates, which I didn't see. We're using the basic input there. I don't see a date drop down coming up there. Passenger count looks good. Then we have our 2 pickup locations for now. Those look okay. And then we have an output. So using our new shortcut command here, let's take this edit form. now it doesn't work. Shift Alt W. There it goes. Okay. I want it on the edit form though. There. I want to take this and let's put this in. Let's put that in a row. And then one more time here, we'll put this one in columns. Let's try medium first. And for now, we'll just go halfway across. And then we need to move all of our outputs up a level here inside of that row. And we'll kind of highlight all this stuff. And then put one more here. So on medium, we'll show 6. That should be medium and up. And we're still running. I'm going to stop running and put this in to running without debug. We don't need debug right now, so this will speed things up a little bit. Now we should have our inputs and outputs at least side by side on the screen so we can see them at the same time. There we go. That looks better. So we'll have our inputs here, our outputs here. And we'll do some form groups on these guys too. Form group. Just to give them some kind of organization. That should be good enough. Just kind of doing some cleanup and organizing. And then we can get to building a form for these. See, did I close off all? Oh, I need one more div at the bottom. There we are. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. And then we should be able to see everything line up pretty nicely. Except I missed one over there. The total price is a little crazy yet. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's not bad. The sizes are a little nuts, but I made that one stand out last time. Let's make those all equal. Let's go down at least one level here. Not so big. And then let's format this out a little bit. There we go. Then time until trip. We'll make these all nice and big, just so we have a nice big output for now. So these are going to be all H3 size. It's a little shortcut, bootstrap shortcut to making a font size bigger. You might not want to use those in mass, but when you're prototyping, at least it gives you something to start with, and then you can go in and create custom CSS files. And we've got something locked here. Yeah, I know it's not a successful build. It can't get the output directory freed up for some reason. Make sure all of our browser tabs are closed down. Give this a try again. That did the trick. So there was a process taking over that it couldn't kill. So there we go. It's not too bad. If we look at it actual size, it's zoomed in for the stream. Actual size looks like that. That's not too bad. This gives us a good start anyway. Let's look at the fields now. So right now we've got a date, the number of passengers, the select list here, and there's another one here. Let's go ahead and make a form for this. I'm going to start with a folder for the form. Let's do new folder. Let's call this one models. And then we'll make another folder. Let's call that one form models. And then we can add a new form, new item, class is going to be, here's where things get hard. We have to name things, and naming things is always hard, isn't it? It's been the, it's kind of been the story of this show, is naming stuff. They pretty much renamed everything in ML.NET from the beta to the 1.0 version, and I think we spent an entire show just fixing renaming issues. But I digress. Let's go name this form. We'll call this trip. Trip input's a little too short. Let's see, trip configuration. Call it trip configuration for now. And let's look at these side by side. Let's see what we need. If we pull this guy down, we've got a date time value. And let's see if we're able to bind an actual date time value or if we need to use a string. So we'll have a date time. Let's see, we'll call this trip start. And we'll put a getter and setter on there. And of course, this needs to be public. I could also use prop tab. That's a little bit faster. That's what I usually do. Instead of spelling these all out. And then the next one's an integer, so that made it nice and easy. And this will be passenger count. That's going to be the number of people that are going to be on the trip. Let's see, we've got our two drop downs, and we can use our little hack together form that was in this index page here. So these need to be strings. So we're refactoring those out from our myForm temporary class that we created a couple shows ago. So there's our values. We've got a date time, an integer, and two strings so far. I'm going to hard code a few things in for now too. When we submit this, we also need a, let's see, a payment type. And let's make this a field for now. Since we're not going to be setting it publicly at all. Payment type is cash. And then we also have a vendor equals VTS, which has no meaning at all to us whatsoever yet. Trip distance is something we're going to have to calculate. We don't have it yet. So we're going to hard code that one too. So eventually these values will come from somewhere. We don't know where yet. And then of course our rate code too. And it's building something. There we go. Building something in the background. Rate code. And I've already kind of commented where these are coming from. And again, these are temporary comments. Why is it's doing that thing again where it just keeps kicking off a rebuild? I guess it's because I'm in a CS file. It's got some kind of watch going, which means I must have the app running in the browser. And every time I make a change, it's going to keep trying to refresh that. It's kind of a live reload type functionality that we've got. This one is going to eventually be an input of some sort. We don't know. The vendor is also, actually let's say form here. Form, another form, item here that we don't know. Trip distance will be calculated from a service possibly. So maybe we'll build some of these things out here soon. So we've got two values here that are either going to be calculated or provided by a service. And then we have two more that we haven't created yet because those are going to be inputs, but we haven't really developed that part of the application yet to identify what those inputs are. So we'll just hide those for now. Now we can go back to our form here and we can delete this my form bit. We still need a form on the page part of the app. We can do this and say that we want a new trip configuration. Let's see. And we should be able to control dot now and get our using statement up. And then we can new that up instead of quote my form. New trip configuration and method must new is not valid for this item. Really? That's strange. Oh, I don't have a name here. There's our form. There we go. So now we have our form. So let's see here on some comments here. I got lost in the comments for a second. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. Yeah, it's hard to remember where keyboard shortcuts are when you're on your phone. Code Rush. Code Rush is good stuff. Let's see. Visual Studio doesn't like your naming standards. I don't have an editor config in mind right now. Yeah, I don't have anything custom anyway. Whatever comes built in. Yeah, they are a little bit delayed. So am I, those kind of. I had another window overlap it for a minute there. I didn't see you guys chatting there. Appreciate the chat in the chat room, though. So now we have a form on the page. Let's do one more thing with the form. I accidentally closed that out already. Let's pull our trip configuration form back up, and let's do a little validation in here. I'm going to put required, hit control period, and that will prompt me for system.componentModel data annotations. We're going to require a passenger count. Range is going to be a minimum of 1, maximum of 4, let's say. The selected location, we'll put required for that. And required for that. So we've got a couple required bits. Not sure what's going on with the date time yet. We'll come back to that one in a minute. Now we can come back to our form here. And let's swap out. We still have a model of form, which is fine. And instead of our input of date time, let's try one of the built-in date, input date. And then we have a form field now. Let's see, what is the proper, we can bind, and we can set value. Let's see, value is going to be form dot select or trip start. And oddly enough, I put a lowercase there. Let's fix that real quick. This is a property that is public. We'll make sure that's a nice uppercase. Fix that one while we're at it, just so we don't get any weird behavior out of that. Now we have our trip start from our form, and our class is going to be form control. And now we have an actual Blazor component there. And then we have an input, input number, and then class. If anything, the exercise that we just did of using the HTML element first and then upgrading to the Blazor component version of it will at least give us an idea of what HTML tag is actually output by that thing. Oh, there's lots of underlines in my property names? I didn't notice. Value form is passenger count. Let's take a look at this again. Oh, these are not property names. These are field names. Private member is unused. That's why it's being underscored. I'm not making use of any of this stuff yet. Is it not bind value? It's not, because these are component properties. And I'm not binding with the data binding syntax yet. There is at bind, but I was just setting the value. I'm not doing the two-way data binding as of yet. These are. The input boxes are. These were not. Actually, these do need to be public. Let's see what kind of fix we get here. Removed, unused, make read only. No, we actually want to go public with these because we are going to use these. Public, public, public. So those were valid underscores it was giving us. And let's clean this up at the top here to remove unused usings. There we go. All right. So this looks good. Let's see here. I'm just putting these in one way. We don't have anything else affecting those. We can go ahead and make those bind value though. So we can use at bind value in there, just to make sure they're all the same, because I know we need the two-way binding here. And now we should be able to rerun this. We still don't have any way to submit this and get an output from it. But now we're running. We have a proper date picking. It's an ugly HTML date picker. We will fix that later with some Telerik UI components. But at least we have January of 001. So this is we're gonna start our trip at the beginning of the universe, and we're gonna go with 3 passengers, and we're gonna go to the moon, or we're gonna get picked up at the moon, drop off back home. So we've got a little bit of a working form. Now we need to be able to submit this guy. Close that out. At the bottom of our form, I think we need another form group actually. Form group. Close that guy up. And in our form group, we need a button. And I don't think we have a built-in button component. I think we just roll with a regular button. The button is going to be estimate trip cost. And let's see, I don't think we need any, we need to tell the button what it is we want it to do. We need an on-click event. So I don't want to be in my form. I want to be in here. And then we want to take our form and convert that form into a trip. So what we want to do in here is remove, I will comment it out temporarily, and we want to make a trip. So we want a trip of new trip, and we're going to set trip dot passenger count equal to form dot passenger count. And we want to do this for each of our things in here. So we've got payment type is equal to our forms payment type. So we're mapping these values from our service to our form to our data structure for our ML service. Trip distance, we don't know, but our form has a hard-coded value that it's going to give us for now. Let's see, trip distance. There we go. Assuming that trip distance would be calculated after we select our pickup and drop-off locations. Vendor is equal to form.vendor. Probably going to change that one to vendor ID just so these map a little easier. So just a really simple mapping. We don't need like auto mapper or anything crazy yet to do this. And then we need, I think we need one more value in here. Yeah, we have passenger count, check, rate code. Not done yet. Rate code equals form dot rate code. And we've got probably a type mismatch in here. This is an integer, that's a string. So the form actually takes this an integer, but for some reason the model's training data was a string value of that rate code. So we'll just cast that to string, send it on down. So there's all of our values now. So instead of newing up a static trip, then we will create one from our form, and we'll pass those values into our prediction model and output a fare example. And we don't want to do this on a init anymore. So we'll take that out. Actually, we'll cut it out. And we want to create a click event. So we need to set up an event here, event handler for our, what did we call the button? Estimate trip cost. So we'll call the button click event on estimate trip cost, and then set the total price equal to, actually this, all this logic actually moves down to this level. So now on init, all we're doing is filling some basic location information. So we don't need to have that anymore. We have on estimated trip cost. When we click that button, we'll new up a trip. We will map the form to the trip, and then we'll send it down the wire to our machine learning model. So now we can wire up our button to an on-click. We want the on-click. And we need our symbol here for our button. Why am I not getting something is not happy here. On click. There we go. Must have spelled it wrong or something at first. And it's not accessible. And let's see, I think I lost my chat room again there. Sorry, you guys were commenting on the dates. So it's 001, the beginning of time, unless I specify a default date. Yes, we definitely need to do that. We're giving a shout out to Ancient Coder with our ancient time. That's a good one. We need to make our form public, or sorry, our function delegate public. So this needs to be public void on trip estimate cost. Now we have our button. Actually, I think I may be doing the button wrong. We need, that function actually is from the form. So that's actually my mistake. The button click, instead of it being on click, estimate trip cost. We need the button here, but we want the event to be tied here to on valid. At least I thought it was on valid. Am I missing something here? So the dogs are barking and throwing me off tremendously. Our edit form, I thought, had an on valid click or on valid submit. Yeah, I know. Where did on valid submit go? The dogs drive me nuts here. This is an edit form. And I don't see an on valid submit. Did they move this in the last version or something? I believe that was part of the form, was it not? Yeah, on valid submit. That's what I was trying. Am I not saying it right? On valid. Oh, it's capital. Capital on valid submit. Thanks. Not confusing at all. Not at all. On trip estimate cost. There we go. Yep, so that click handler actually goes up at the top, not on our button. So now we should be good. So let's give this a try. I'm going to run with debugging just in case we run into an error. We will be able to track it down. Thanks for the help there with the chat room. It looks like it needed to be capital letters, and make sure you don't type that with an @ symbol, because that will throw things off. Thanks, Super Sniper. Button should be type submit. Yes, it should. Electric Havoc. Fixing things before they fail. This is Distraction Central here today. Type is submit. Yes, that won't fire correctly unless it's a submit button. That's because we might want to have a cancel button on a form. So there might be multiple button types. Oh, it's default if you don't specify. It's okay if we do specify, though. I think I'd rather have it there than worry about it being on by default. In case we add another button, we don't have to go back and tell it which one is the default button. Doesn't hurt to have it there, but does hurt if we add something later. Right, so let's click this first and see. I'm not getting any validation. It's probably because I don't have a validation output. Validation summary. And I need a validator too, right? Data annotations validator. So I wasn't actually doing any validation. So that's why I didn't have anything happening when I clicked that button. So we need these guys before we can have that output. So let's rerun this. Everybody in the chat room, one step ahead of me today. I think I need a second coffee and 2 less dogs. More coffee, less animals. All right. So we do have validation throwing. We don't have it throwing anything above those items, though. So we need to add some validation on top of those items too. And while we're at this, we'll go ahead and make this button look good too. Oops. Oh, come on. There we go. Button primary. Actually, let's do outline primary. I like that better. Another thing that we need to do with the validation on this and the drop downs. Let me move this out of my way. Keep seeing that. I don't need it right there. Down at the bottom's better. I've got my 2 drop downs here, and they're iterating over a list with a for each, and that, I believe, makes the first item of Earth default. And we need to add something else in there. See, it says selected location is required because we haven't actually changed anything, and they default to Earth, which makes it impossible to select those by default. You'd have to toggle it. So let's refresh that. Let's see if I can find or get that behavior down pat. So if you just leave it Earth and then you select a different thing and then go back and select Earth, then it's okay because you actually changed it, which that's kind of odd too, but I'm not going to nitpick. Chris is taking off. Chris, we'll have to catch you on another show, man. Take care. We'll give you a shout out to your new article on Friday. So take care, man. Super Sniper as well, having to bow out. It's okay. I know a lot of you guys are over on the Europe side of things, so you got to go early. SMAB UK, thanks for the follow. Oh, sorry, it's Howard God. Thanks for the follow. Got to run as well. A couple people having to bow out for some early Monday activities. That's all good. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me for a little bit anyway. All right, so we are looking at these drop-down boxes and the way they work. We'll refresh this one more time. If I hit estimate trip cost, I get validation that says that they're required even though they have a valid value in them. So what I'm going to do is go back to the input select, and then inside of here we will have an option that is a default value. So the name will be like something like select a location, like that, and we'll leave the value portion empty. We'll copy that and we'll put that one in front of our other for each loop as well. So we'll have one of these items by default. Now we should rerun it, and that validation will be a little more meaningful. I think I might have found a bug, though, in the validation logic, and I'm not sure what the fix is for it. Don't know how to specify that value can't equal something off the top of my head, but it says select a location now. If I click the button, it says that selected location is required. The bug is if I go to Earth and I go to the moon, then those validations clear. But now if I go back to select a location, then I no longer have an error, but it's still an invalid value. So it looks like it's just the fact that I've changed the selection is made the required field validate, which if I change it back, it's no longer valid, but it's still validating. So I'm not certain. Maybe it's something in the validator itself I have to set. It's default on init. It's not part of a bound property, no. But it had the same behavior when it was all bound properties. It may be something on the required validator that I have to change. I can't remember exactly. Allow empty strings. Error message. It may be the allowed empty string. Yeah. So you have to either set like a default value somehow, or this should actually allow empty strings is false. Float. That's not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. False is float. What are we doing today? Allow empty strings is false. Let's try that. Let's see if that does it. Because there's no value, and let's enforce that there's no value. Let's double check this and make sure value is nothing, just to make sure it doesn't pick up selected location as the value. And I don't know if that was a default behavior to allow empty strings as false. Let's see. Gets or sets. It doesn't say whether that is on by default or not. I'll have to read up on that one and see. Set the property to Earth, but not in the markup. Oh, set the selected destination. I gotcha. Let's see what this does real quick. I think I follow what you're saying, though. Electric Havoc. So if we swap that guy, go back, that did the trick. So I nabbed it. I nabbed it, but I think I see what you were saying. You could do it if the value, the default value was, let's stop this one. So Electric Havoc's suggestion was something like this, I believe. If I had a default value here, and if this was, let's grab my text here. We should not be able to select that. And then we would potentially be able to take that away. Let's see what that does. Just to take a look and see if we wanted a default value there, we could do it that way. I think that's what you're alluding to, Electric Havoc. Just for the sake of educating the show here myself, see if that works as well. Loading, taking forever. There we go. Oh, selected destination is required. That did not work. That did not fire the validator. So that does not work. It did pick up. Oh, did I have these? Select a location, destination. Okay. Anyhow, we can get around this by putting our default, or not default value, but an unselected value will throw an error, which is what we want. We may want to default to something. That's something kind of different. We could set, we could tell it to select a value by default, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. What we may end up doing with that is, let's take a look at the page. Yeah, the validation messages, we haven't added those yet. So what I may do with those, at least one of the locations down the road, is when the page loads, we'll check geolocation and automatically pick Earth if they have a geolocation enabled on their device. But that's something we're going to kick down the road and do in a little bit. Let's finish up all of our other validations first. Passenger count seems to work okay. And then we can submit the form. We see that we have a total price. Right now, date does not affect price, and later on it possibly will. We may specify dates that are more expensive to travel on than others, and we can modify that through the rate code. So certain dates may invoke a higher rate code, which will then predict a higher price. So we'll mess around with dates and trip price and stuff in a little bit. See if passengers affects the price, and it does. So this is something we can toggle here at the passenger count, which oddly enough, 2 people is less expensive than 1. That's interesting data. 3 passengers. This is from the machine learning model, so no telling why it's doing that. 1 passenger is the most expensive. Maybe this is per passenger, and you're getting a discount. But for some reason, that discount runs out when you hit 3 and 4. Machine learning is fun. You can get some very interesting results out of smaller training sets. And by interesting, I mean they do weird stuff. The point is we're exercising the machine learning model, less of a emphasis on the fact that it's the most accurate machine learning model for predicting cost of travel. That's a fun one. I like that so far. We'll keep adding passengers till it's free. Ta-dum, ching. The old dad jokes start coming out, right? All right. So let's get some more validation messages up here. SMAB UK. I don't know if there's a pronunciation for that, but yeah, we'll check out the validation messages. Is the validation for location and destination working now? Yes, it is. Let's take a look one more time here. If we refresh the page, we have a hyphen select location. You can see the validations trigger, and then if we select a location, we get the validation going away for either one. And then if we select the double hyphen thing again, the validation comes back. So what I did, I don't know if you caught it, Ancient Coder, was to get that behavior, we're disallowing an empty string as a selection. So required allow empty strings is false. And then anytime there's a empty string, that is an invalid input. And then on my option, I didn't check to see whether this is necessary or not. We can do that real quick. but the option value is just an empty string, and then the actual text is the selected location. Let's pull one of these out just to double check, see what option returns if no value is actually set. I just wanted to enforce it and make sure when we were testing it out, just so we didn't have one more thing to troubleshoot. So let's go back, see if we can refactor that little bit of code out of there, just to see what it does. And that was on our first drop down. We'll see if that one still works. And then we'll pretty up some of these validation messages. So, pickup location, it is required. We have changed it. We'll change this one too, just so we can see this a little easier. Reselect. So you do have to set that. You do have to set this. So that has to be set to nothing. So an empty string value. Then we check for an empty string here, and then we throw validation if it's empty. So that was the fix, and that's necessary. So we'll keep that empty value right there at the top. These things could come out of a database too, as long as you have an empty string value as your first value. So we've got a working form. We want to add some more validation messages in here, so these can be a little better looking. I think it goes inside of a form group, if I'm not mistaken. SMAB UK has popped some of the code here, and it should be validation message, and then for, and then we've got this nice expression in here. I think we can just say at form. No, we do need the opening parens in this one. It's at lambda form dot trip start, and it was not happy at first with that. Looks like it's okay now. I don't have my closing tag, so it's going to be angry about that. That should do it. It's an alternative to validation summary. Yeah, it is. I like these a little better. Actually, it's okay to use both for different reasons. If I want the message to show where that item is, it's helpful to have it there. And it's also helpful to see a summary at the top of the page. Payment type. Oop, that's not the right one. Passenger count. And then put it after for now. I might want these above, but we'll see. Selected location and selected destination. Both could be, depends. I should have some UX guys come on the show and help us out later on and see what they think. I've heard arguments either way, so all of this stuff is so debated. What I've heard, anyway, is the validation, the summary is helpful for certain scenarios where you want to show that there's more than one thing that has been invalidated, and then the problem with it is it doesn't show you where on the form, so you have to go back and find it, where inline validation like this shows you exactly where it is. I've seen both used on the web. I've seen singular versions of either. We'll have to talk to somebody that's an expert on that and see what they think. Let's see, we also don't have any style on that one, or any of these actually. Let's see, class. We don't have a class on validation message. There is no class, and it doesn't seem to have one on by default. Class is validation message. Let's go put some Let's go put some text around, or I mean classes around that. Let's see. Oh, okay. Some quick questions here. That's a good one. Dan Nerd 100, or was it Howard God was asking? Yeah, Howard God. That was something I showed on a couple shows back. Yeah, there's a little magic voodoo in here. So this is probably the standard way that you might see it right now. When you do a for each, so this is what I'm focusing on. There's a question here. If you look at the for each block here, we're for eaching on locations, and we're taking the item. And then we say the option is equal to the item.id, and the text is equal to item.name. A handy little shortcut you can do is you can say for each, then you can deconstruct these, but you need a special method on the class to do this. It's on by default with key value pairs, so you could say key and value here. But on my location object, I have, that's not it, location details object. I have this deconstruct method. And that's how I'm able to get those values as tuples. And then when I'm iterating on my for each loop, it's just assigning those tuples for me. So that's a cool little trick that a friend of mine taught me. So this is a friend of mine who, not him, friend of mine who just started working at Microsoft now. He used to be part of the MVP program, David Pine. So he's got some good stuff out there. He showed me that trick. I thought that was really cool. Put it in some Blazor context for folks. But follow his blog. He's got some really good stuff. He's now on the Docs team at Microsoft. So congratulations to David for landing his job over there at Microsoft. But yeah, it's a fun little thing there. The only catch with this is, by the way, I will point this out. If we have, I don't know if I can do it in option, but if it's bind, yeah, I can. If it's bind value, it doesn't work. This is because it tries to do two-way binding and write back, and it tells you right here there's an error. It needs to be able to write back to this value, and you can't write back because it's been deconstructed. So bind value does not work with that scenario. Two-way binding does not work. It has to be one-way binding. So that's the only little catch that I've found so far. So great question there. Add text danger to the validation message. That's what I was going to do. So validation message, I don't see a class on this. Yeah, I don't see class, additional attributes, which I think this is something that will come with the splat operators that are coming in the next version. So we'll be able to kind of override that behavior, but I don't see anything that allows us to set a class for this validation message. There's actually no properties on this thing, additional attributes. Let's see. Additional attributes that will be applied to the created div element. Is that a new feature for Blazor that I'm not aware of? Let's see if we can find any docs on this. Conditional attributes, but additional attributes I don't see. Let's see, what was in the latest release here? Blazor. Preview 6. See if there was anything in there on additional attributes. Let's see. I know it's coming, but I don't recall seeing it. You know what we can do? Let's go look at the source code for that thing. But I don't know of any way. Let's see here. Nobody in chat has experienced that. Additional attributes. Let's see, is of T attributes. Oh, that's a tag helper thing. That's not even for. That's some leftover tag helper syntax that's coming through, maybe. I don't know how to set the. See if we can rerun our app. I don't know how we can set that without overwriting some CSS. So if we throw some validation here and inspect it, it just is a div validation message. And there is nothing to control what that class is that I can see. Let's go look at the source for it just to make sure. Forms and validation. Let's see what we have on the docs real quick. See if there's anything in here that says there's the summaries, description, label, input. So it doesn't even cover that. What I think we can do, let's do this way for now, is in our Sass file, let's go to Sass, themes, light theme, all. We'll put a little temporary bit of code here, dot validation. See, did I get that right? Is that what it comes through as? So inspect this one more time. Validation message. I'll copy it just to make sure there's no spelling errors, anything weird to throw us off. Throw that in, and then it is class text danger. Let's see, bootstrap, Sass. Alrighty. Bootstrap for Sass tutorial. I don't know if we need a full tutorial. I just want some Sass, what do you call it, documentation here. Variable defaults, maps and loops, theme colors. We can set it that way. We could probably use extends too. Theme colors, variables, components, modifiers, CSS variables again. All right. Let's try at extend dot. This would be text dash danger. Semicolon. Let's try that. See what our output is here. Build. Task runner. Did we have a successful Sass build? Yes, we did. Let's see if that built out the Sass I wanted. Should be able to just refresh this. There, that did the trick. The model, you could use that error message. I know I can set the error message, but I was looking for the CSS class, Genescu. I'm not sure that's the same thing that I was trying to tackle. Maybe you're saying it differently than I was thinking, but just the power of Sass right here. We're just going to apply another CSS selector to the text danger selector, and that kind of does the same thing as recreating that same CSS style. And what's nice about this is if something changes in text danger, then it will also change this. So we're handling it all in one place. We're not repeating ourselves, which is always nice. If we look, you can see this generated CSS if we jump into the code on this. You can see what it did is where we have text danger, it's also just added a comma text or validation message that way. So that's a really easy way. I love Sass for that type of stuff. It just makes it so much easier. So we'll keep that there for now. We'll actually refactor that out into a module later, but for now it's fine to keep it in there. Let's see. Yeah, for this app, I think this might be overkill. As somebody said earlier, I'm going to agree with that. For now, we'll just take it out. So let's pull the validation summary off for now that we have these nice inline messages. I'll talk to some UX folks and see what best practices are. But when we start prettying this thing up, those summaries will get in the way. So we'll take those out. So that looks a lot better. I like that a lot better. For one thing, it doesn't make the form bobble all over the place. It doesn't push it down the page. So let's see. This looks good for today. I think we did pretty good work here. What we'll do next time is try to extend these pickup locations. We've got more destinations. Actually need to start putting together a database for these. And we're going to need a DB set that we can create a Entity Framework database from. And we're going to have multiple destinations. If we look, I've got on GitHub, I've got a wiki going for this. If we look at BlazePort, I have a wiki that has a resource section, and I've got all these nice ports and descriptions here that we can use. So we'll enter these into a database. Once we have these in a database, we can add another tier of locations. So if we pick Earth, then we'll have another drop-down that lets us pick from our launch site. So we may want to travel from Japan, China, and so on. So this will give us a nice interface that has some realistic locations in it to help sell this fictitious app a little bit better. And the same thing for destinations. We'll probably, I don't know how many ports we'll have on these fake locations like the Moon and Mars, but we can add at least a default item there. So we've got those, and that'll create like a hierarchy that'll give us time to, or a chance to exercise some more realistic workflows with like master detail records and things, which we're kind of mimicking right now, but we're not actually doing any database calls. So while it's nice to be able to jump through the screens and see what they might look like, they're not actually hitting any real data. So we'll add some real data there. I think we'll save that for the next show, which will be Wednesday. And we'll go into, let's see, those. We have a model here, but I don't think we have a description. Let's see, data. Ooh, I got two folders going, data and models. That might have to change too. So I've got our location details. These two things, data and models, kind of perform the same function. So we'll have a database that fills in some of these bits here. So we'll need to do some updating on this code and take it kind of away from prototype into a more realistic thing. So we'll do that next. We'll build out an NA framework database, and then we'll end up moving that eventually to Cosmos DB. And we'll get to see how that migration goes. I've never done that before. I haven't integrated anything with Cosmos DB. We could potentially start there, but I want to kind of compare and contrast between the two and how they work. So today, so far, we did pretty good. We made the form look a lot better than it did. We could probably set a default date on this guy as well while we're in here before we wrap up the show completely for the day. Let's give this guy a default date. Let's see, what value is that? Input date. Value changed, value expression. I don't see any control for that. I know we talked about it in the chat room earlier. There's a format, that's for sure. But I don't see that we can set a start date for the date input. Oh, Cosmos DB is throwing money at tiny projects. Yeah, I'm sure I can find, I have some Azure points that I can probably use. But maybe we'll make it to where we can toggle between the two. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look this one up while we're looking at it here. So we can't set on date input or input date a default date for some reason. Blazor. Binding on values one way. Input component issue. Get the first 30 days free. That would be fine. So I don't see a way to set the default date on a Blazor date input component. We could just go back to the raw HTML version of it. Let's see if there is, let's go into source code here and see what it has. Source components. Is it Blazor? Server templates, assets, extensions, new. Is it components again? Oh man, I haven't been in here in a while. It looks like they may have moved some things. I'm trying to remember where the form components are. Let's see if we can do find file and input date. .cs, there it is. That did the trick. So it's ASP.NET Core source components source forms input components. Not confusing at all. But here's our input date. We have a date format. And then let's take a look at the render tree here. We've got, it creates an input. There's additional attributes. So this additional attributes is something I need to figure out. It looks like it's in the version we have, but I don't think I've seen any documentation at all on that. Was that in any of the blog posts that Dan put out? Does anybody remember? Additional attributes, Blazor. There's conditional attributes. I don't see additional. There's an issue on it. Allow add tag helper. Nav link. It says implemented. Let's see if there's anything in the docs. I mean in the GitHub pages here. Implemented. Usually some of their notes tell you how to work it, even though it's not in, nothing on Awesome Blazor either, huh? You don't see that there's anything in there. It says it's closed. Dynamic element. Some people are saying, look here. I don't see any usage for it. I don't know how to write it. You can't currently write this because it's not explicitly defined. If we had allow, programs can retrieve them at runtime, pass through all the recognized components. Yeah, but how do you spell them out? Excellent idea. At the moment, you can still add, you still can't add them without error. Component name does not have matching property. Haven't used it. Don't know if it's up to date, but you can look here. Oh boy. It looks like it's in there, but there's no documentation on how to use it. But that would have solved that problem. Let's see. Let's mess around with it for 1 sec. We've got some time to kill. So let's see. HTML input date. Just to make sure we have the right syntax. Let's look at a date. Min and max are what we're looking for. So we want to be able to set the min and max. The earliest and latest date selected or accepted. So what happens if we type in on our input date a min of let's see, let's borrow a value from here just to make sure it's formatted right. So it's year first. Let's use their max, the 31st of last year. Let's see if it lets us do that. And we'll run it. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it throws that property does not exist error that we saw in GitHub. Rabbit hole, I know. Is that rabbits pooping or a rabbit hole? I can't tell. Don't tell the children where Cocoa Puffs come from. Dad jokes. So if that did run, it didn't do anything. Not sure it did. Let's try one more. Run with debugging this time. Kill this window. And it's running really slowly. Let's see. We got it spinning up. So I've added a min number here. Let's see if it just ignores it, throws an error, or so it either ignored it or it threw a silent error in the console. Don't see any console errors. Not any here. So nothing there. Nothing if I click. Oh, well, we get validation. So it did pass it through. But it didn't give us a starting date. I guess we could set a manual start date. So that functionality is there and it does exist. I wonder if we can do this then. First of all, we will set the min value to at date time now. Let's see if that works. It may not be formatted correctly, so we will see. We can always make it format correctly. And then we had another one down here, the validation message. We fixed it through CSS, but I wonder now if we can just say class equals and it'll just work. Is it text danger? I always want to say alert. I think that was maybe foundation. Let's see if that renders. If that's true, we can take our Sass out. Yeah, we could set the default value directly on the model as well. That would work. We can move that logic to the form or the page code behind, so it figures out what the minimum date is. We could also add it to the validation, even though it kind of does validation as well. It's just kind of weird to have a pop-up version. There's like so much validation options. I was just kind of curious what it would do at this point. And then my builds have gotten slow for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not running anything new. It may just be like a memory leak in Chrome or something. Let's fire these validations off. How did I trigger that last time? So I don't think that one's doing anything now. I think I broke it. I put the wrong time format in. Yeah, it doesn't like that time format. So that did not work directly. We'd have to format that to the web standard, whatever that was. It was year first, year, day, month. Was that how it was? And then we wanted to check on, did it pass through my class property? Class is validation message. The other one was, which one did I put it on? Make sure I'm inspecting the right one here. Yeah, the last one. So on destination, we should have a CSS class written out, and we do not. Destination. Yeah. So that, it depends on, I guess, the developer to allow those attributes, additional attributes, to pass through correctly. It doesn't look like validation message is applying. We can check the source code on that one too. Let's do another deep dive here one more time before we wrap up. Let's go into, we were looking at validation message .cs. It was under component forms. Yeah, this is the one. And then if we look at the render tree, additional attributes, it's there. It is there, but it's not applying. I wonder if it's because the add attribute overwrites the additional attributes. So additional attributes is it a property? How is that enabled? Yeah, it's a dictionary. Capture unmatched values. So it has a flag that it applies those additional attributes if they're unmatched, I believe. So since classes, even though it's not at this point matched, it does end up getting a class attribute. So this probably overrides this. is why we're not able to set a class. So the validation message class is always going to be applied, I guess. So that's why that doesn't work there. But with the date time, it doesn't have a min attribute that it's writing. So the min attribute doesn't get applied, or does get applied, I mean. So I hope everybody follows me on that one. Date, or input date. Input date. These are new to me. These got added in the last release, I think. So if we look, additional attributes is here, but since there is no attribute later added that overrides this, it passes it through. So we couldn't set a CSS class for this one either because it has one, just like we can't set an ID or a value that way. So it has to be set, or it has to not exist for the additional attributes to be passed through. So that's something I learned today. I just realized this is zoomed out pretty far too. So if you guys aren't seeing what I'm looking at, this render tree builder hits an additional attributes property. Let's see, that tells it to apply it there. Very interesting. I'll have to play with that one later and see. I'll have to talk to our engineers at work at Progress too and see if they're taking advantage of that. Which I'm not sure we are, because it's probably something that could change because I don't see it documented anywhere. It could be a breaking change later. All right, so let's fix this guy up before we end. We need to add that min value, and it needs to be formatted correctly. So min, we're going to make it that you can't select a date that is not that is before today, and so we have to book a trip in the future. We're going to say at datetime.now, and then we want to format this. Let's see, to string, and we want the format to be the format has to be year, month, day format, like this. Is that, let's see, and then if we look at C# date formats, just to make sure we have the right format, string, and we should be able to specify it, but I think this was all caps and it shouldn't be all caps. Date time now, why is now double underscored or red underscored? Date time now cannot be used like a method. Oops. Date time now is a property. To string, and then our string formatter, I think this is actually lowercase date, like that. Let's try that one out. Let's write this out as well, just to make sure. Just so I don't have to inspect it to see it. Rerun that. I want to see what that looks like when it comes out. But I think that should take care of it. Learning a little bit about Blazor today. So it's these additional attributes are totally new to me. I heard they were coming. I know it was in the roadmap. So if we look at the roadmap, I know it was in there somewhere. If we look at the roadmap, Let's see if they have additional attributes in here. Preview 6. Support attribute directive. That's not the same thing. Directive attributes. I wonder if that was it. Attribute directive and directive attributes. Not the same thing. No, that's just the different directives and how they're written. Support for key. Signal R, auth. Splat operator for attributes. That is in preview 7. We're not on preview 7 yet. When did they sneak these in there? Support for attribute directive. That's not it, I don't believe. No. This is for like authorize, stuff like that. That's just like using an attribute, but at the Blazor level. They snuck it in there, I think. They didn't make an announcement of any type. It'd be nice to add pass attributes down the component. So this was in preview 7, but it actually got released in 6, I guess, because I didn't update anything. My Blazor and ASP.NET Core versions aren't updated that I know of. It's showing that you should have to pass it in as at attributes. But, oh, preview 6 update. The compiler support splat operator didn't make it into preview 2, so it won't be able to use this feature for components written in C#. But it will make it in preview 7. So it looks like it works, but only if they're, but not in Blazor, I guess. Other attributes allowed to appear before the splat operator. Multiple allowed. Huh. Very interesting. Looks like they're implemented in some fashion because they are working. Maybe they have some early steps on getting it to work. So we botched the date time format, so it doesn't like okay. I don't know where it got any of that from. Did I not do my date format right? Alrighty. So date formats. Standard date time format strings. D is date specifier, long date pattern. Date D. Let's try just the regular D pattern in here. See what that does. That one certainly didn't work. I am terrible at these formatting things. This is the second time on the show I've killed the formatting. I was trying to do currency last time. Got that one wrong. The date one, totally wrong. Oh, Copper Beardy, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. I did get my 4th year as Microsoft MVP. Thanks for mentioning that for me. Yeah, that date looks better, but I still think it's formatted wrong. So every year in July, they renew MVPs if you've been active. Oh, hey, John. Welcome to the show, man. And John, did you get yours as well this year? I believe you were an MVP, right? I think I saw you at the summit last year, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, every July we get renewed. And this time around, I got it for the 4th year in a row, which is nice. Congrats, John. Also, let's see. So while you're in the chat room here, we've got John in the chat room. John has a nice podcast. There's John right there, Mr. John Calloway. Also, Microsoft MVP had me on a show a couple month or so ago. Give their six-figure developer podcast a listen. It's a good show. Make sure you check that out. Like I said, we have a great MVP community. It's nice to have good people like John in our groups. So my date format did not come out the way I wanted it to. I want to format this thing out. And I need just the right string to do it. And I thought I could do it like this. It did not work right. I don't want the commas in there and whatnot, but at least if I do toString, it should come out. I don't want the month like this. I want lowercase month, which I thought I had. It came out really strange, though. It did not do that. So I guess year was also lower year like that. Capital Y was not the right option. The day and the month. The month, however, needs to be capital M's. That's what I did wrong. I swapped the wrong capitals for lowercase. So this is the format I think I wanted. Let's try that one more time. Give this a good old-fashioned shot again. See if it works. So one last piece of making this form nice before we go for the day. Just troubleshooting some of this stuff where you go from the HTML world to C#. There we go. That format looks good. Let's see if this gives us... There it goes. Must be greater than today or later. So that's good. What we need to do is set a default value now. So now that doesn't trigger a validation. I'm still kind of iffy about the different types of validation. That HTML built-in one pops up, and it's kind of jarring, but at least we got that to work. So we can do input date, and then thanks to whoever suggested this earlier, that we can set the min value this way, and then we can set a default value on our form as well. We're binding to trip start. So what we can do is come down to our form. Let's see, our form is getting newed up. And then on our form, our trip configuration form, on start date, we can say equals, I don't know if we can actually do this here. Has to be done on the constructor, I think. I don't know if we can set it like this. Maybe we can. Date, time, now. See if that actually compiles. Since it's not a static value, I don't know if we can. It doesn't seem to have a problem with it yet. Oh, that did work. Let's give it a run. See what happens. There we go. There's our default date. If we try to go down and hit submit, then we get the error. We go above, hit submit, then we get other errors. But at least that validation is working. We'll swap that guy out for a Telerik date picker later because they are so much better. Telerik.com. Blazor UI. Just to show you what options that we have based on this ugly thing that we have here. We have a lot better date options if we use our date pickers. We have, first of all, nice theming, but we actually have rich APIs too. So we can set our min and max values without having to format them and all that fun stuff. We have data binding. We also have, if we don't want to pick it that way, we have a nice calendar as well. So we can actually show a nice full calendar on our page and let somebody select a date that way. And then again, there's APIs for min and max dates on there. So these dates will actually get blocked out. This example here has how that looks, except I broke it. Let's refresh that. 2010 through 14 are grayed out because it has a min value set for 2015. So you can even change the scope of the view there. You can have a monthly calendar, you can have a yearly calendar. This one's showing by decade, which is really cool. So you can restrict values there too, you can see. So we can put a calendar up here as we move this along, make it look a lot nicer. But we had to start somewhere. So starting with a hard-coded date in a standard HTML box is a good start. So we have a form with validation now. We can predict data, travel prices. You can see our price come up over here. So we have some data binding happening, all good stuff. It's starting to shape up a little bit. Still not ready to do any design work, but it's at least a step in the right direction. So thanks for joining me today, guys. We'll work some more on this on Wednesday. Shout out to the 20-something subscribers that we have now. Thanks for subscribing to the show. I know Sarah came in the show last week and dropped a bunch of complimentary subscriptions down on us, which is totally awesome. Sarah is fantastic for doing that. Make sure you tune into the show. It may happen again in the future. So, has this been pushed to GitHub? Thank you, Ancient Coder. Thank you so much. I almost forgot to do that. I said I was going to be better about my Git history, and thanks for holding me to that. Let me do that real quick, and then once we do that, we will look for somebody to raid. It is Monday. It is July. I don't think that anybody is streaming on a Monday in July. It is summer, but if I do spot someone that we can raid, we will raid them. Monday is a busy day, I guess. I don't guess. I mean, it is. It's a very busy day, so I don't think a lot of people have streams on Monday. Right. Let's see. What did we do today? Let's jump into Team Explorer and look at our changes. So we added a trip configuration form. We updated the index page with that form. These are all changes. Oh, I need to exclude this directory. Don't think I can do that right now. I won't do it right now. I need to pull this directory out and fix the Git. I don't want to include my SAS or CSS files. It's goofy. So these were all form related. Added a form and formatted form on index page. Those all go together. So that's one good commit, and then I need to push this guy up. We'll get that up on GitHub, and that is still on the ML branch of that project because we are working with that ML model still. So I'm keeping it in that branch. So this is feature, trip cost, machine learning. We'll keep it in that branch for now before we merge it back into master. So if you're looking for the changes for today, they're under that feature branch. So thanks again, Ancient Coder. Lana Lux is on. I think I've seen Lana Lux before. And Brandon is on. Brandon, which Brandon? Let's see. Brandon Satrum's on. Let's go ahead and raid Brandon. He is an ex-coworker of mine. Used to be at Telric with me. So we'll go ahead and raid Brandon, see what he's up to. He's a good dude. So we'll raid him. It's counting down 10 seconds. Let's say hello to him. Thanks for the... I'll shoot some emotes back there. Thanks for the... for joining me on the show and all the great comments and questions and fixing my code for me as we go. You guys are fantastic in the chat room. We'll see you again Wednesday, and we will do some more of this. We've got the forum where we can actually do some work now and put some data in a database and make it show up on that form. So we'll hit that Wednesday. Let's go say hi to Brandon. Thanks again.